BigCountryPreps.com. I'm Evan Wren, and this is the Big Country Preps Wednesday night podcast, our weekly look at the area athletic scene, what happened last week, and what's going on this week. I'm here with my partner, Dan Youngblood, via Zoom. And tonight, Dan, we got a very special guest. We got Hamlin head football coach Jason Botos joining us.
Yeah, and this is gonna be a fun one. I'm excited to talk to Coach Botos. He's a guy we obviously got to know as the head coach of the softball program, which has had a ton of success. Made a region final a couple of years ago, and now he's leading the football program. He was an assistant under Coach Lucas and previously under Coach Evans. So he's been around the Hamlin program for a while, and I think we were both excited when he got that head coaching job, and they're off to a good start, 4-1, and kind of starting to figure some things out. So it's going to be fun to talk to Coach Botos just about the state of his program, just about this first year, what it's been like, and just what we can look forward to from the Pied Pipers. So it should be a good conversation.
All right, before we jump into this week's show, we want to thank a couple of our sponsors, beginning with For the Love of the Game Broadcasting and our old friend Terry Slavens, owner of K-Lakes 93.5 FM out of Breckenridge, 97.7 FM KATX out of Eastland, Classic Country AM 1330 out of Graham, 94.7 FM KWKQ out of Graham, KROO 1430 AM out of Breck, and KWBY 98.5 FM out of Ranger. That is For the Love of the Game Broadcasting. Also, Rob Durham, sales consultant at Bear Chevrolet Buick Cadillac up in Breckenridge. If you're in the market for a vehicle, new or used, give Rob a shout. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever want to meet. Call him at 254-559-2266. That is Rob Durham up at Bear Chevrolet Buick Cadillac in Breckenridge. And before we get started, one more thing. Please, you YouTubers, hit the subscribe button. Also, hit that small little bell so you get notifications each and every time that Big Country Preps comes up with a new video. Please hit that subscribe button. We appreciate it.
All right, let's go ahead and jump in. We're going to get Coach Botos on here, and we'll be talking a lot about the Hamlin Pied Pipers here in a bit. Before we do, let's take a look back at where we were last week. Obviously, a short week with a lot of byes. All the 6-team districts were idle, so they're just a shortened slate. You still had probably one of the biggest non-district games of the year, though, for our Big Country Preps player game of the week. Brownwood and Stephenville. What did you see? Two very good teams. We obviously knew that. What did you see from those two?
I think it was a game that came down to three big plays, really, to two or three big plays. There was a block punt. There was a couple of very big pass receptions by Tristan Gentry, who is so far the fastest man I have seen in the Big Country this year. And other than that, if you subtract the big plays, it's pretty much a dead even heat. It was a couple of evenly matched ball clubs. It was a fun game to watch. It was physical as always between Stephenville and Brownwood. It always is. Great crowd at Gordonwood, as you would expect. But it really came down to just two or three big plays. And for the fourth straight year, Stephenville has had a knack for making those plays against their arch rival. That's their fourth straight win against the Lions. And I think the Lions are getting a little tired of it.
No, I'm sure. I was at an area game as well with just the shortened slate. We only had one local game, and Brandon McAuliffe covered Abilene High's win over Amarillo Tascosa, a thorough win for the Eagles. With that opportunity, I went out to Roscoe and saw them take on a much improved Junction squad. They were able to come out with a win in that one, 20-14, in a game that was a very physical, very defensive football game. Which I think is kind of probably the surprise to a lot of people. That you hear about all of the names, the skill position names on that Roscoe team, and you probably assume that it's going to be a high flying offensive team. This Roscoe team is actually much more physical and much stronger defensively than probably people realize, and they're showing that on a weekly basis. And that was kind of the story of the game the other day against Junction. They forced 5 turnovers. 4 of those interceptions. 3 of them by Julian Cuellar, who had a great game. And then they got 2 touchdown receptions from Parker Gleaton, who is just a monster on both sides of the football as a tight end and defensive lineman. This Roscoe team's fun to watch. I'm excited to see how they do it once district starts. They've got a really quality team. Obviously, they lost Jax Watts early in the season, their quarterback, multi-year starter there. But they've been getting a really, really good production, from the Arnwine kid who stepped right in as a sophomore and is playing well there too. So big win for Roscoe over a good Junction team. I think that one will hold up well over the course of the season, and it'll be fun to see what this Plowboys team does the rest of the way.
And this week we're going to find Mr. Youngblood in the Windy City, Plainview, Texas, where Wiley will be facing Plainview. Wear a windbreaker. I'm telling you.
And this one's There are some similarities this one to last week. A lot of times, I mean, you say you're going to watch them play Junction, and the assumption is that they're not going to face a very good football team. Same thing with Plainview. That is not the case this year. This Plainview team it's the best in quite a while. They're off to a 4-1 start with Coach Jonathan Haddock, who is the former Cooper offensive coordinator. He's now been over there, I think, 4 years, and he's got that program rolling. They're playing really good football. Their only loss is to a really quality Hereford team, and I think it was a 3-point game. So this Plainview team has some weapons. Wiley's going to have to play well. They're going to have to go on the road, and they're going to have to play well. Fortunately for the Bulldogs, they played well on the road all year long. So I'm excited about this matchup. Obviously, I'm not terribly excited about the drive, but I think it'll be a good football game, and I think it's going to be a fun one to watch.
And of course, that brings us to our Big Country Preps game of the week, which I think really it's an exciting contrast in styles. So uh, this high flying Clyde offense, which spreads the field, they're still physical. I mean, they are a physical football team, and they can run the football, but they're a team that spreads the field and moves the ball all over the place, and then they can run over you against a Vernon team that is straight out of the Stone Age. I mean, they're like 1955 with their offense, and they're still very effective at it. The Vernon's one of those teams that still proves that football is a game of blocking and tackling. They come into this game with that old style offense at 5-0.
Yeah, and Vernon's been running that option game for a long, long time. So I'm excited about that matchup. I think this will be a good test for Clyde. I think we all believe that this Clyde team is every bit as good as advertised. This is going to be an opportunity for them to prove that, as they'll have multiple of those types of opportunities in district. So that'll be a fun one. And that's one of several area games we're going to have folks at this week. Another one we will be the Coleman Toller game, which should be interesting. That's been a really competitive matchup and is often decided that district championship out there. So that's going to be a fun one. And then obviously we'll have someone also at the DeLeon San Saba game, which I think is going to be a really fun game. DeLeon's been great really all year long, played very well. Their only losses to that Junction team we just talked about. And then San Saba has really come on lately. They gave Coleman a really strong game last week. So I think that's going to be a fun matchup as well.
We have another game that we're going to be sending somebody to, which should be a fun game. Jacksboro is visiting Eastland, and that Eastland ball club's been playing quite well. They've been playing well all year, despite the 1-4 record, and they're coming off a win over Jim Ned. So they're at home. Jacksboro's going to have to strap it up and play a good football team that night.
Yeah, I think that Eastland game's going to be fun for a lot of reasons. I mean, obviously, Eastland's been playing really well the last couple of weeks, especially. You look, they gave Breckenridge a really good Breckenridge team all it could handle 2 weeks ago, and then last week, obviously, kind of shocked the Big Country with their win over Jim Ned. But this is a team that has played a brutal schedule and played really well against it. So it's going to be, I think, a good football game first and foremost. And then just adding to the intrigue, that game will also involve an old friend and former Breckenridge coach Casey Hubble, who obviously did a great job for the Buckaroos. He's leading that Jacksboro program now. So there's a lot of Big Country ties there, and it should be a fun matchup.
All righty, it's just about time to bring on Coach Botos from Hamlin. You all set?
Yep, looks like he's ready. We're ready. Let's go ahead and get him on.
And joining us now, Hamlin head football coach Jason Botos. Coach, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
All right, Coach, y'all are off to a 4-1 start for the second straight year. Just we'll start with kind of the basics. What are your thoughts on the way the season has started, and just kind of the way your first season as head coach has gone?
Our kids have bought in. We changed our philosophy a little bit offensively this year, and it's taken us a few weeks to kind of get into the groove of throwing the ball and catching it and getting positive yards. It's something that the older classmen have been accustomed to back when Coach Lucas was here. But they bought in, man. They're rocking and rolling. You know, we're playing decent ball right now. We just got to minimize mistakes.
Coach, I've liked your schedule so far. I think it's a schedule that I mean you're in a rebuilding mode. You're trying to build a program there and gain confidence, learn how to win, and it's been a schedule that has afforded you the opportunity to teach the kids how to win. Jumping into district, from this point, once you jump into district, it'll get a lot more difficult. How prepped do you think the kids are mentally to face the challenge?
You know, you're right. Our preseason gave us the opportunity to compete. Similar number of kids, size school. We've won a couple tough ball games late in the game, which is going to be good for our kids and knowing that they can accomplish. You know, at the end they can close a ball game out. District wise, you know, we're in a tough district. We got we got really three big time programs that are at the top with Albany, no doubt defending state champion. And then Miles has got a kid that can throw it around, and they got a couple receivers and they're explosive and can score a lot of points in a hurry. And I had a chance to go watch Roscoe the other night, and they've got some things going over there. They're rolling. Coach Freeman's doing a really, really good job over there. Haven't had the opportunity to see Cross Plains too much. I know that they got a really good quarterback and they got a couple offensive linemen, that's returning. We're real young. We're real young. We've got three seniors. We expected to have two seniors this year. We had a lineman come out once two-a-days came around. But the majority of our kids are sophomores and juniors that are out there, and we've got a couple freshmen up. And so winning these early games this year and getting the varsity experience is going to pay off as we build the program.
And Coach, obviously you've had success leading a program. Y'all have had a really strong softball program that you're the head coach of. But what have been kind of the biggest challenges stepping into the football head coach AD seat? And have there been any surprises yet that you've experienced?
The biggest surprise is how much, behind the scenes paperwork, phone calls, meetings, just stuff as an assistant coach or a head coach of a sport. You don't get to see that from the athletic director seat, what this role entails. So that would be the biggest surprise. I think that coaching's coaching. If you love to coach and you love to see kids succeed and you're willing to do whatever it takes to get them to do what they need to do to be successful in life, you're going to be successful as a coach, football, basketball, baseball, softball, whatever it might be. And I've had the opportunity to be here. This is my 5th year. So I've got a relationship with the majority of these kids. Most of them, that are starting on the field on Friday nights were our ball boys, when I first got here. So I had a chance to build a relationship when they were in 4th and 5th grade, 6th grade, and they understand what it takes to be a Piper and how to win.
Coach, most guys that take over a program that's in rebuilding mode or a building mode talk about maybe changing the culture, but most of these kids grew up through the Russell Lucas era. They grew up watching the Pipers have a tremendous amount of success. They know it can be done. So I wouldn't think that there's much of a culture change that you're going to have to implement. Am I wrong?
No, the culture wasn't the issue. It was more the mentality, the mindset, trying to give them out of the oh, it's hard, I'm just going to give up because we're not very good mentality into a winner's mentality where no matter how hard it is or how big that guy is, I've still got to give 100%, and I expect to succeed. I think discipline, holding kids accountable is very, very important. And I think they knew when I took over this role that I'm going to hold them to the line, and it just makes them better. It makes them more accountable. It makes them more responsible for their actions. And we break it all the time. When we break a drill, we'll tell them, you own it, and so we'll break out to that. And they know that no matter if it's in the weight room on a rep or on the field, that they're going to own whatever result they get out of it. And it's changing their mindset, not so much the culture, just their mindset into more of a winner's mentality.
And Coach, you touched on this, but you did have the benefit of having been around these kids previously, some of them for multiple years. How much of an advantage was that just in terms of getting started and kind of getting that buy-in you talked about earlier?
Oh, I think it was huge. I think it was huge. I knew personally what they were capable of. What position they're going to mold into. There wasn't that 3 or 4 week window of trying to figure out where kids need to fit in a program. And I think they knew me. I think that's a big thing. Anytime in this profession that you move a school or a location, you got to build, trust and respect amongst your players and your coaches. And that was something that it was already here. And so we didn't have that honeymoon period trying to figure each other out. We were able to hit it running on day one. And really last spring after our softball run is kind of when we started implementing stuff. And there's never been, any second guessing or anything like that. And they bought in. They've done a really, really good job. And I'll tell you, it's fortunate that I was able to retain Coach Luna here as our defensive coordinator. He's a really, really young, active coach. He's part of the Rock membership or Rock mentorship. He's an ambassador for Texas High School Coach Association, and he's a kid magnet and has really, really good relationships. And we brought back Cutter Martin, which played for us in the state game in 2019 and graduated here in 2021. We've got a program here at Hamlin where we can grow our own. And he's back on the sidelines helping us in coaching the receivers. So he's got not only, player relationships with some of these guys, but he's got long-rooted Hamlin ties with a lot of these kids and families. And that makes a big difference.
All right, Coach, you were part of the Russell Lucas era. How much of that system have you reincorporated back into your system? How much of that do you draw upon?
I've had the opportunity to coach, underneath some really, really good coaches and some good programs, both at the lower levels and the upper levels. And, Coach Lucas was an opportunity for me to get underneath a really, really good mentor, high quality character guy. And I think his deal was, if you can grow Jimmys and Joes into right people, then the X's and O's kind of take care of themselves. And he's Coach Lucas came from the I background, and then he kind of got into the Franklin system here, a little bit more spread. It just with today's athletes and how we can throw the ball around and so I come from the background of a power I. That's kind of what I grew up playing in high school and then my early coaching days. And then I was in the Franklin system down in San Antonio. So it's kind of a big blend. A lot of the stuff that we do, everybody does. It's just it comes down to execution. Coach Lucas done a really, really good job in putting the system in place here at a very young age with these guys. And most of these kids that are playing right now were in 6th, 7th, 8th grade when he was here. And so they had already been in the system a little bit. We removed them from it a couple of years. So it wasn't hard to get them back into it.
And Coach, you kind of led me into the next question, but I was just kind of wondering who maybe some of the mentors that you lean on, who are some of those guys? Maybe who do you call when you have questions or need a sounding board or those kind of things?
Well, I call my old coach back home in Indiana. He's still getting after it. That was my high school coach and kind of gave me the opportunity to play in high school and not kick me out. And he gave me opportunities. And I knew then that I wanted to be that kind of man. And I got a chance to spend some time with him this summer for the first time in about 15 years. It was good for the soul. I contact, Coach Lucas and Coach Hodnett over at Sweetwater. Both of them are great guys. Both of them are Piper dudes. And they give me some really sound advice. I contact, Coach Baser. He's down at San Antonio Brennan. I had a chance to play in the state championship game with him back in, I guess 2013. And PJ Wells is another guy that's ran some successful programs down around the Hill Country area. Those are the guys that when I got questions, I not just football related, but just, administratively or just personal, those are the guys I reach out to.
Coach, tell us about the future of the Hamlin program. The numbers have been a little bit down lately. What kind of numbers are we looking at the middle school level? And does it look good for you? Can you stay at the 11-man level in the future?
Oh yeah, I don't foresee us going 6-man. I think overall I think we're about 15-20 over maybe right now. I'd have to look. We hadn't looked at that in a couple of weeks. 7th and 8th grade, up until the grades came out last week, we were playing 2 teams. We're carrying about 34, 35 kids total down in the 7th and 8th grade. We had a few fail and we had a kid get injured. So this week and next week, we'll be doing 1 game in the 5th quarter, but we've got good numbers. We're going to be able to carry up, bring up 10 to 12 kids on each grade. That will help us in the future throughout high school. And we got a really, really big 6th grade boys class, which will play dividends. We were fortunate, I guess, not to have to use the 6th graders that the UIL allowed this year. We beat that threshold of the number. So just like in all these small rural schools, it ebbs and flows. 1 year we might have a really, really big class of girls and only 4 or 5 boys, or vice versa, a ton of boys and just a few girls. So on the boys side, we're looking pretty good for the next 3 or 4 years. From about 5th grade up, we've got good numbers.
All right, Coach, I think that's great news. Because frankly, if somebody were to tell the people of Hamlin that they're going to be playing 6-man football, I think you might see people with torches and clubs lining up out in the street. I don't think that would fly. I I don't think that would fly in Hamlin.
No, no, I don't think so. I definitely have some for sale signs out there in the yard. Yeah, I don't foresee that, and I really don't think the community would go for it. You know, I mean, when I was here with Lucas the first time, we were classified 1A and everything else, but we opted to play up in 11-man football, and I'm glad we did. You know, we played for the state championship, and we were the smallest 2A in the state at the time. Really a 1A, you know, because we were in 1A districts for basketball and track and baseball. We just played up with the 11-man football, and I don't ever in my future here in the next 5 to 10 years, I don't see that being an issue.
And coach, you mentioned that district y'all are in, obviously very tough. The region y'all are in, obviously very tough. And just with the nature of the classification y'all are in, there's kind of a fairly wide variance in enrollment numbers between the teams. You look at like you guys, Cross Plains, kind of right over that threshold, and then some others with maybe 50 more students than y'all have. Just what is it the challenge y'all face just in this district? Kind of your thoughts on the district and just in general of kind of getting those kids ready to play some schools that are going to have bigger numbers sometimes.
Hey, you know, we before we take the field every Friday night, you know, we're in the locker room and I tell them to look to the left and look to the right, and, you know, and there's 14, 15, 16 kids dressed out, and I tell them every time, I said, these are your brothers. This is what we're going to war with tonight. This is what we got. So when you want to tap out, I want you to look at your friends on the sideline and go, I got one more play in me, you know. And Ethan Byerly, you know, he said something my first year here, and he got beat up. I don't know if you guys remember Ethan. He was an all-state kid for us. You know, he went out both ways. Great kid. You know, he'd get knocked down, and man, I'd get on the microphone. I'm like, hey, we got to get him up off the field. He's not coming up. And Coach Lucas would be like, he'll get up. And then finally I asked Ethan, I'm like, dude, you take a beating, man. How do you keep getting up? He goes, I know if I can get up, then I can take a step. And if I can take a step, I can play another rep. And so that's the mentality that we're putting on these kids. You got to be tough, and, you know, you got to lean on each other. And this is what we got. It's us.
Coach, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time. We know you're a busy guy. Obviously, we'll stay in touch with you and be keeping a close eye on the Hamlin Pied Pipers the rest of the way. Good luck to you.
Hey, I appreciate you guys as always. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Coach.
Okay. And that was Hamlin head football coach Jason Botos. One of the nice guys, truly one of the nice guys in the area. A great source, very reliable. Just one of my favorite guys to work with.
Yeah, I thought that would be a fun conversation, and it was. It was fun to get to talk to him about what's going on at Hamlin and just kind of his philosophy, because I think he's a guy that, like a lot of the coaches we have, that really is about building a culture, about, really cares about those kids, pours into those kids. So it was fun to get him on and allow him to kind of share some of those things. But enjoyed that conversation. I look forward to seeing what this Hamlin program does going forward.
All right, and with that, it's about time to wrap up the Big Country Preps Wednesday Night Podcast. But before we do that, we want to remind you, we've got 3 separate subscription packages here at the website. We've got a monthly for $5 a month. We've got a semi-annual 6-month subscription for $4 a month, and we've got an annual 12-month subscription for $3 a month. That's $36 for a full year of Big Country High School athletic coverage.
And we'd also like to remind you that if you ever see a photo you like in any one of our galleries, those are available for purchase. We have photo downloads available for $7, as well as some keepsakes and prints. So make sure you check those out. As you're scrolling through the site, you'll notice pretty quickly that we take a lot of photos from these events we're at, and we try to get to a lot of events throughout the course of the school year. So that's something that we really enjoy doing, and it's something we are very proud of here at BigCountryPreps.com.
All Big Country, all high school, all the time. Welcome home.